echoes of time forgotten. Time is a river, unstoppable and unyielding. It flows onward, and everything is decided in its current. Every step, every breath, every heartbeat is predetermined by the wheel of time, and every now and then a prophet is born. A prophet who can see the future, but every moment she foresees becomes a law she must obey. If she sees herself deliver a cruel word, then when that time arrives, she must speak it. She is bound by the river, unable to leave its current. No one knows who the prophets are, because no prophet has ever been allowed by the future to announce themselves. Angelica lived in the slums. She had no family, no one who waited for her at home. She had grown up in the orphan halls of Whispergate, slipping between broken railings and broken rules. The caretakers were too tired to care, and the other children had long stopped asking where she disappeared to when her eyes went still and distant. They just called her strange. But the truth was, she saw everything. The river had shown her all of it, every fight she'd lose, every cut she'd receive, every scrap of bread she'd eat. Even now, she walked the alleys like a ghost of herself, tracing the lines of a story she didn't write. And today, she knew she was going to fall down a flight of stairs. She had already seen it, exactly when and how it would happen. Her foot would catch on the 5th step from the bottom. She would twist as she fell. Her arm would catch the edge of the rail, and her forearm would break. A clean snap, sharp pain, then screaming, then stillness. It wasn't fatal. The river had made that clear. But it would hurt, and that terrified her more than she wanted to admit. All morning she felt it building, the knowledge of pain that had not yet arrived. The image of her own body crumpled on the floor, the arm bent the wrong way, people standing over her, staring but not helping. She couldn't stop picturing it, not because she was imagining what might happen, but because she was remembering what will. The memory of the future was already locked in her mind, vivid and merciless. But what if, just what if, she walked slower, tied her laces tighter, stepped a little further to the right when she got to the stairs? She knew it wouldn't matter. She had tried this kind of thinking before. Even when she imagined freedom, the river always led her back. She had once tried to blink out of rhythm, just to rebel. She had once skipped breakfast, hoping the hunger would jolt the pattern. She had once slapped herself in the face in front of a mirror. Nothing changed. The river knew all of it before she did. And still, she walked with an ache of hope behind her ribs. Today, maybe, if she took the first stair on the edge, if she placed her weight differently, if she sneezed at the right moment or leaned a bit to the wall, she could avoid the fall. The thought was like a fever dream. It made her feel lightheaded and foolish, but it was something. She didn't care if it was a lie. She just didn't want the pain. She walked slower than usual. Her heart raced, and then she turned a corner and crashed into a boy. She stumbled. He caught her, steadying her with both hands. "I'm so sorry. I'm in a hurry," he said, and disappeared into the crowd. Angelica stood still, frozen. Something was wrong. That boy, he did not exist. She had never seen him in the future, not in any version of it, not in any thread of the river. He wasn't supposed to be there, and yet he had touched her, spoken, looked her in the eye. She felt reality begin to crack. The river, the eternal, unshakable river, was gone from her mind. She closed her eyes, tried to find it again, searched for the flow she had followed since birth. But all she could sense was pressure, a force. Something massive was gripping the river, not just holding it, but clawing at it, wrenching it, trying to gather its 1,000 twisting strands in its invisible hands and force them into one single path again. It was a god, or something like a god, not gentle, not wise, not kind. A being of infinite control, forged for order, built to defend the shape of time itself. It did not speak. It did not need to. Its will pressed against the fabric of her thoughts like iron on wet paper. It was trying to undo what had happened. It seized the thread where she met the boy and twisted it violently, trying to reweave it into the old braid, but it was already too late. The thread had unraveled. And then, like the shattering of a mirror, the river split. No, not split. It burst. Time exploded around her. Where once there had been one winding silver current, there were now a million streams branching outward like the veins of a leaf, like cracks in glass, like lightning in every direction. And she could see them all. She could see herself falling from rooftops she'd never climbed. She could see herself running barefoot through snow, laughing. She could see herself dying, again and again, pierced by spears, drowned in wells, old and alone, or young and screaming. She could see herself standing in front of a throne, wearing a crown, or holding a child, or kissing someone whose face kept changing, flickering with possibility. She could see herself killing. She could see herself being loved. She could see herself walking away from the city. She could see herself burning it down. She stood at the center of it all, watching a sky of futures open around her, each one shining with its own strange light. The river was no longer a river. It was a night sky, a universe of possibility. Each star a life, each star a death. She reached out, trembling, not knowing what she was reaching for. Some of the stars were beautiful, others were made of ash. And behind them the present still writhed. The godlike being howled in silence, trying to stitch time back together, to erase the boy, to drag Angelica back into the single, straight river. But it was too late. She was outside of it. She fell to her knees, and for the first time in her life, she did not know what would happen next.